right, here we go. So, yeah, the second tense, also known as the emphatic form. Some people like to refer to it as nominal forms. And Zatzinger also calls it the emphatic form, the emphatic construction, but it's at the back of the book under focalizing in an adverb. So it can come under different names. I like to use this one, not just because it's a neveu, but simply also it lines up very nicely with Coptic, where I think this name actually comes from. Depending on how and where you've heard about it, it may be one of the unsolved mysteries of Egypt. Trying to see if I can do something about that, because honestly, in my mind, in late Egyptian, that's the stage of the language where you can see what the second tense does most clearly, because it's morphologically clearly marked and it has a very clear function as well. So let's jump into that. So, in a nutshell, what it does is it shifts the emphasis in the sentence onto an adverb. And an adverb in this case means in the broadest possible sense. Basically, anything else than verb, subject, object. And Cavalier has a very nice set of examples in his grammar. He basically has tui, chedi, it, ta hutnacher. That would be a normal sentence. I mean, a normal first present. I, upon giving grain to the temple. I give grain in the not to the temple, sorry, in the temple. My bad. So, but this is a normal first present, and the emphasis is probably on giving grain. We already know that the speaker is I, so the subject is not the most important part. The predicate really, the main part of the predicate is that this person is giving grain. Where does he do it? In the temple? But that's not, but that's more like an additional detail. Now, the second tense uses a completely different verb form. More specifically, it uses a verb form of iri, which is expanded by a pathetic yod. So basically, iri, and then dit yit, tahut netchel. So the adverb stays the same, but the whole front part changes. And essentially, it becomes, well, I give grain in the temple. We don't really have that in English. I don't think any Indo-European language that I know of has it. There are some, I believe, African languages that do have it. There was a nice presentation I saw somewhere, linguistics presentation on the internet. I'll see if I can find it again later, which contrasted Egyptian with a few other languages that have something similar, but
Yeah.
none of those that I speak does it.
Yeah, could I chip in on that?
Yes,
Because
sir.
in anticipation of this, I was doing a bit of reading around
Oh.
second tenses and I came across one item. I'm sorry, I can't tell you where it was, but they're saying it occurs in quite a lot of African languages. It's really pretty common to have second tenses. And I was wondering I mean, it doesn't occur, I think, in Middle Egyptian. So I wonder whether it crept into late Egyptian through sort of influxes of people from Nubia
Oh.
or further south who mixed in their own language with the
Well,
Egyptian language.
Well, yeah, thanks for calling that out. I mean, there's two things here. One is it an area phenomenon? Just like you have, say, for example, measure words in different unrelated languages in Asia, where you can't say like two horses, but you'd have to say two tail horses or something of that nature to basically put like a counter word in between. And you do that in Japanese and in Chinese. I think you do it in Vietnamese. I'm not sure about that. But basically, they've all evolved counter words. Is it something similar that the focalizing or second tense is an African part of Africa, Northern Africa, West Africa? I don't know. That's an area phenomenon. That could be. Now, as for the genesis, when this came about, I mean, in general, there's the emphatic construction in Middle Egyptian, right? It's just not that clearly marked morphologically, and I think most of you know more about Middle Egyptian than I do. But I mean, you do have this whole emphatic chapter there on when do you put the emphasis on the adverb. That would be the second tense of Middle Egyptian. So I would claim, at least according to standard Middle Egyptian grammar, it's already there earlier. It's uh it's already baked in. It's just you can't see it as clearly because you don't have this morphological marker, and you certainly don't have the periphrastic construction with iri in there. There is something about gemination, whether something, I don't know, somebody with better Middle Egyptian better jump in. But I know there's this whole question um, if you have a motion verb in the past, or such an F, that is emphatic. And if you have a sentence without EU, blah, 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 it can be emphatic. I'm sorry, I'm really bad at that. But maybe one of you can fill in how those emphatic rules work in Hoch and in Allen. Or if not, I'll leave it as an exercise to later read up on that. But yeah, supposedly it exists. You just can't see it clearly. It's more like from context or tiny variations. But no, great point to call that out as an area phenomenon. I think that, from what I've seen, is true. And why not? I mean, some things like articles, for example, they're also, a lot of languages have them, a lot of languages don't have them. We don't have the emphatic or second tense construction in English. What you can do is you can use a cleft sentence. So instead of saying, um, I give grain in the temple, emphasis, you could say, it is in the temple that I give grain. And that basically serves the same niche. I need it by tomorrow. I mean, why would you want to use a second tense? It's basically to emphasize something else than the verb or the object. It's not that I need it tomorrow. It's not that I need it tomorrow. It's I need it by tomorrow. And for that kind of construction, for that emphasis, you would use the second tense in Egyptian, I would say, because you do it in Coptic, you do it in Late Egyptian, and supposedly also in Middle. Speaking of Coptic, Coptic has, for those of you who have done Coptic, Coptic has a whole host of these. Oh, and Rebecca's not in today. She would like this one, I'm sure. So Coptic has more than one. For example, the normal first present is F sotem, which of course is just um, well, it looks like the suffix pronoun. There's something complicated that went on in Demotic before that. But essentially, this is a sejm. So F sotem, he hears, but then in the second tense it gets a more explicit e in front of it, F sotem. In the perfect, it's even more marked. This here is an old form of ed, so that's our ed sejm, late Egyptian perfect, basically. It's the sachem and F of iri plus the infinitive. So he was hearing becomes afsotem in Coptic. But in the second tense, if you wanted to say um, he was listening because of something, for example. I am listening for the reason of blah, 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 or I'm listening to you and not to the others, or whatever. You use a completely different construction. You use entaf. So you don't say afsotim, you say entafsotim. He is listening because of or to this specific thing or whatnot. And then you have analogs for other tenses as well. Um, I have a few examples here to show you how that's used because it's quite similar to what we're going to talk about today. For example, this here is obviously from the Bible. I think Luke. Ejo emosnak, towenik. Ejo emosnak, towenik. It is to you that I say, arise. So somebody's getting healed, or somebody's being brought back from the dead. I forgot what exactly it was, but so I'm not saying that to anybody else, but it is to you that I say this, namely, arise. So this uses the second tense to emphasize the nak to you, which of course is just like our nak in late or Middle Egyptian. Um, if you wanted to say, I'm saying to you, arise, just matter of fact, it would be tijo. In other words, tui jet. Tui jet, nek. I'm saying to you. But if I want to emphasize the to you part, it becomes a jo emosnak because with this extra construction. So far, so good, or any questions so far? Sort of okay. All right. Very good. In Coptic, you use these a lot with question words because question words, by their very nature, are emphasized. For example, if I wanted to say, "Where is it that you are going?" Um, this here would be "ek weg." Weg is to go. "Ek weg eton." So egg again is the second tense. And so I try to imitate that here in English. I could just say, where are you going? But I try to use a cleft sentence here. Where is it that you are going? And before we go back to late Egyptian, one more Coptic example, um, which is quite complicated. But I wanted to show you that what is being emphasized, what depends on the second tense, can be very long. That happens in late Egyptian as well. So, for example, pai de teref. Pi is, of course, our pi in late Egyptian, this. De is the Greek, um, yeah, like a little enclitic that really doesn't mean anything. You could use but or though in English. So, pai de teref. But this all, or this though, all. Entaf Shorpe, second tense of it happened. Shorpe is geper. So Entaf Shorpe, that it happened. Jekas efe joke bol, Engshi pintaf choice jov, chitimpe prophetis. So that it come about, or that it shall come about, or that it shall be completed, I should say. That shall be completed, namely what the Lord has said via the prophet or through the prophet. So you see, there's like this whole long Jekas sentence, which is like in order to. And that's the part that's being emphasized. And because this is being emphasized, the verb now goes into the second tense. So I could say, um, oh, wait. Am I messing this up? Peri-peri international. No, this is correct. I think this is correct. I'm currently, hmm. Let me double check into this because the relative looks somewhat similar. I think it's correct. In any case, I hope you got the idea that in Coptic there are multiple forms that can be used. I borrowed the examples from Plumley's grammar. In late Egyptian, there are only really two forms, and only one of them is really common. So there is, for a few verbs, a form where you put like a little y, a little yot in front of the verb. And that's used with a few verbs, namely our usual suspects. Like, for example, here, um, ijednen emmaat. Ijednen emmaat. So this here is the emphatic form of jedin. Jedin would be we say, or sorry, may we say, um, subjunctive or prospective. But if I put the in front of it, basically it is this that we shall speak in truth. In other words, it is that we shall say the truth and not lie, essentially. I think this one is in ever. So this is emphasizing, like we do it in English. Well, honestly speaking, like, okay, so the rest of the time I was lying? Probably not, but people like to say that, right? So, Egen emat, it is in truth that we shall say, and then whatever we're saying. This only happens with jet, with D, or a D, with Iwi to come, Ini to bring, Iri, so those usual suspects that always have irregularities. And it's normally used for like oaths or promises, so has also a comparatively limited range of application. The one that you're going to see all the time, on the other hand, the normal second tense, uses the ECHMF form of Iri and then the main verb. So here's an example. And those in the Horus and Seth group will know this one. I irtu dit ta'iaud in Osiris, en sen en mut, iusa en het acha. Anybody remember what this one means? I'll take note.
Yeah,
Sounds familiar, right?
yeah. It's like, is it that is
Sorry.
this passive to, should be given? The office of Osiris should be given to the brother of the mother, right? Which is
Right.
the brother of the mother uncle. Um, when the son of his flesh, so his true son is standing,
Hmm.
still around.
Whoops. Exactly. Like, I'll be less literal, I'll just say is right here, basically. But literally is standing. Maybe it really says is standing. Maybe I say is present.
I feel like
Something.
there are a lot of second tenses in Horace and Seth, weren't there?
There are. There
A
are.
lot. Yeah.
Mhm. So what's being emphasized in the sentence? Um, it's a second tense, so we're not emphasizing the office. Um, so it's not should the office of Osiris be given to somebody. It's also not on D. It's not should the office be given. Instead, where does the emphasis go?
I think it's on the uncle. Should it be given to the uncle?
Exactly. That's exactly
Yeah.
what it is. So I try to mark this by the second tense is always in blue, but what's being emphasized, the adverbial, and the adverbial can be one word. It could be die here. It could be ni to me, or it could be like a whole sentence in order to blah 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 blah. So it doesn't matter how long the thing is that you're trying to emphasize. It's just that you're trying to emphasize something else than the subject, verb, or object. And you're absolutely right. In this case, is should the office be given to the uncle when his son is here or when his son is still around? Um, oh, this is a good way how to translate it. Let's use this. This is just as vague as the aha in Coptic. Okay, very cool. So, and but I really that's what I wanted to point out to you guys is the second tense, whether it is the normal form with the iri or whether it is the short form that's only used with a few verbs, it's always marked by the pathetic yod. And that's nice because I mean this yod is used for a few other things, but the other things really don't fit in context. What could it be? The yod is being used for imperatives, but that obviously doesn't make any sense here, especially when it's an inflected form like here, where you say ijeden, we say, can't be an imperative because the imperative never has an ending. Um, it could be a participle or relative, which we haven't talked about officially yet, we've seen a lot, but that would always be an object. It wouldn't be the main verb of the sentence. So if you see the main verb clearly, like from context, and it has a yacht in front of it, can really only be one thing, and that is the second tense form. So it's really nicely marked.
Quick question.
Hi, you're there. Hi, Rebecca.
Sorry, I'm late. Um, I've got a teacher who's German, and he confuses the whole class by using J and Y differently from us. Now, I know that I've got to think of this, what you have here as a J, as
Yeah,
an
yeah.
E sound.
Oh, an E. You're right.
What's it actually called in English? Is it E?
It
Not Yod.
funny. So people get around that by calling it essentially the Hebrew way, a prothetic yod. So, and
But
I
it's
should.
not though, is it? Because that's me is what do we call it in English, somebody? That is it really the same as a Hebrew Yod? Because that's a Y sound.
And it is a yeah. I mean this thing here is essentially like
E.
pretty much. I mean, how do I do this?
It's like iota. If I was going to use a
Yeah,
foreign
it's like
language and
iota.
connect it, I'd say iota.
It's an
We
iota.
do call it the yod though. I mean,
Iota.
in English, when we're referring to this letter, it's a yod. Whether you write it with a J or an I, we still call it yod in
Do
the
we?
Egyptian.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's so confusing because I only know Yod as a Hebrew thing.
Right. It's Egyptologies. It's really called a pathetic yod. And I mean, pronunciation-wise, just like the Hebrew one, the letter itself could stand for the consonant or it could stand for the vowel in Egyptian. I mean, both are. So is this thingy here, is that, like, for example, you see it in the jed, in the imperative say, and that becomes aji in Coptic. So
But I
it's
think of that as a, yeah, so
ajo. Mhm.
E, the sound I'm thinking of is E. I'm just being confused. Like, I think of a yacht if I was a super millionaire. Yeah. I suppose I'm just thinking of E as
Oh,
born,
I love that. Pathetic yacht. I would like to get one of those.
but it's not really that though. So I need to
No.
think of it as easy. So I think of it as easy.
Right, right, right. Yeah, it's probably, I mean, how was it? It's called a yacht in English. How was it pronounced? Probably like a short vowel in front of the verb. So instead
And if
of
you're an Egyptologist, how do you spell this word, that? How do we call that? We call it yod, do we?
yeah. That's what you'll most likely find. And let me see if it's in Neveu. I think it probably
Because
is.
he uses an I, you see. And also, what does pathetic mean, apart from if your arm's been chopped off?
I think that would have an extra S in it, right? Prosthetic.
Oh, okay.
Here it is. Funny. Uses of the prosthetic yod. Oh, it has an S in it.
It
Uh,
has an S in it because it's an error in the translation.
oh, good.
It
Thank you.
should say pathetic. Yeah.
Oh, that's too funny. I was,
It makes
How
that
funny.
mistake is in this littered throughout this book.
oh my God, that's so funny. So somebody had the spell checker on, I guess.
It's like an autocorrect. Yeah.
It's an autocorrect, and it happens to me all the time. I mean, the iPhone doesn't know so many words that my geminated forms always become germinated forms, which is so annoying. Um, but
The uniliterals become unilaterals. Yeah.
unilaterals.
Gosh, it just goes to show if you're in the United Nations how careful you have to be.
Yeah. So help me again. What should the spelling be?
So the spelling in transcription,
Prosthetic.
yeah, it should be without the S. Ignore the S here
Okay.
completely. I'm going to cover it. You can't see it. It's not
Make a
there.
note of that.
It should be this, and it just means put in front. Prosthetic, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah.
Ah.
I think that's what the meaning of that's supposed to be.
And I think if, say, Chris, Dove, and I were reading Niveau, I would see the I there, and I'd know that that hasn't, even though I'd know that means E, even though in English it doesn't, it means I.
Right, right, right.
Yes.
So I've trained myself that when I see I, it means E,
Yeah.
but I haven't yet trained myself that when I see yeah, it doesn't mean yacht, it means, I suppose it might mean E yacht.
You mean this puppy here or this one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Except
But
that to me is ja.
it's a hard thing to say, isn't it, with eerie afterwards? I mean, eerie. How do you think
It's
they said it?
How did they actually say it? I mean, there must have been something there, right? Otherwise, they wouldn't have written it very
Yeah.
consistently, I should say, because the yacht before the imperative, sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. The
Yeah.
second tense is very consistently written with that extra thing.
Yeah.
In Coptic, it just becomes ere, as opposed to like the past tense, for example, would just be, let's see, hmm.
I mean, when it's before a consonant like ijed, that or ided, that's easy. But when
Yeah,
it comes before a vowel,
I'm not sure. It's a
the
really good
two must
question.
run together.
Is it Eeri? Eeri? Something like that?
Yeri, or is
Eeri?
it yeri?
Eeri? And how do you distinguish that from normal Eeri? It's honestly something I've been wondering about too. I'm not sure how it was I mean, this looks like where did my example go? I think the previous page. This page. This is a mouthful, right? E. How would you actually? And then you ask yourself, what does it become in Coptic? A. I mean, this whole thing here becomes A.
Huh?
But it's different from the past tense, which would be, our past tense, which you would spell like this, right? That becomes I in Coptic. So there is a difference. This here becomes A. Hang on. This thing is in the way. So this becomes A and this becomes I. So there was some kind of difference in the vocalization. But how that worked, I mean, unfortunately, the only forms that survive are from this very common auxiliary verb. All the others don't. And of course, as we know with auxiliary verbs, just like in French and English and everywhere else, they become so super abbreviated. It's kind of hard to say anything, unfortunately.
Hmm.
So
So just
yeah,
honest, Catherine and Aurelio, you're both German speakers, is that right?
Catherine,
Norwegian.
Norwegian,
Oh,
right? I'm
so
German.
when you
I was
see
an
that
Orthodox.
when you see that J, you know, and do you not think of the German yeah?
Well, I let Catherine fill in for basically a different perspective, my own
Yeah,
would
in
be,
Norwegian would be yeah, but
yeah, right. In my case, what I'm thinking of is just IPA. This is year. So just basically like using the International Phonetic Alphabet, it's year.
Thank you. I'm just saying all this for future generations who, you know, don't know anything like me. They're more like me than like you.
All five people who are going to watch this video, you mean? Actually, it's more than that. I keep an eye on view count. So yeah, so that's it in a nutshell. In terms of how it's formed. Um, let's talk a little bit about usage examples. Um, uh, I found the examples in Neveu. They're of course all good, but they're all super long and have a lot of vocabulary in them. So I try to look up a few that are shorter and simpler for practice purposes. And oops, something's going on in the chat. Let me see. I'm threatening Taylor Swift's lead. Yeah, absolutely. This is going to be in the Super Bowl soon. Um, for the non for those not tuned like into the American habits and customs, the biggest football event basically that we that we have in this country, and there's this whole discussion of how much Taylor Swift is influencing that. But yeah, completely different topic. For each sentence, I would say, oh, and I forgot to emphasize the second tense in blue like I normally do, but good enough. If you could point out when you go through it what you think is being emphasized, that would be awesome. The first one is from a tale. The seven Hathors basically look at what's going to become a very beautiful lady, however, also a very um, mischievous one, and they pronounce her fate already. Echt. And yeah, what do you think that means? The last word, damn it, is knife.
Yeah, I'll start.
Mhm.
So we have Iret set Iret C or set
Simply S, actually.
S.
Ire, yeah. And that's a good question. The T here is not an infinitive. That is the second tense. So I'll just spell it this way, even though there is a T, which is super confusing. I know. Um, okay.
Oh, sorry. Set mut mot or mut
That's right. Hmm.
M
Hmm.
demi demi
Right. I think it's
demi.
demit. Yeah. Which is knife or dagger or sword, some kind of um, thrusting weapon. All right. And translation-wise, what do you think?
Is it that she was killed with a knife or something, or is it that she wait, no, did she do the killing? No, she was killed.
Good point. It could be she was killed by a knife, or it is by a knife that she was killed. Or in this case, it actually refers to the future, but you can only know that from context. So
It's
it's
not a
just
question, is it? Is
no.
it that she was killed? Okay. I was about to say you said in the future. So she
It's
Is
was
it
killed by a
emphasis?
knife.
Is it emphasis? She will be killed with a knife.
close, but the emphasis is someplace else.
She will be killed with a knife.
It was by a knife that she was killed.
That's it. Because the part that's really emphasized is this here. By the way, the M is not in the original. I've seen it with the position it should be an N. I put an M because I think this is an instrumental. So, but the preposition here is not attested. I added that. In any case, yep, you had it right. It's a prediction though. It is by the knife that she will die, basically. So this is the emphasis part. Not from old age, not from a crocodile, not from a chariot racing accident, but by the knife. So what the seven Hathors do is when a baby is born, they come by and they pronounce the fate, essentially. It's like in those Tales of 1,001 Nights, basically kind of things that they show up yeah, whatchamacallit, after the baby has been born, and essentially they, like those princesses in Magic Tales. So that's the situation that you have to imagine here. But yeah,
Oh, that's very bleak. Oh, what a beautiful baby. She's going to die by the sword.
it's
Bye.
gonna by the sword, exactly. If you go through the story, you'll find out why. But yeah, so yeah, well
Is
done.
this acting like a relative form? Kind of like 'cause I see the pronoun agrees in gender with the
Um,
verb.
that's a really good question. Let's use this. How would you say, um, ayo, that's more easily. How would you
Yeah.
say she will die by the knife, not by the knife, but she will just the the sorry, the matter of fact regular statement, um, without a second tense. And let me see if I can find an example real quick. Because honestly, for mood, I'm not too sure. Bear with me. Mourir, right? Mourir. Here we go. So if you wanted to say somebody died, past tense, it would be mutef, or for her it would be mutes or mut. It would be spelled st, right? Because we're talking late Egyptian. So past Sechem would just be like this. Um, Here's a good one. So this is mutef. He will die. Oh, this should be an N, not an M. Ayo, I'm so sorry. Let me fix this real quick. There is actually a parallel in another story. So this should have been an N then. Interesting. I wonder why. But okay. Be that. Interesting. So you can use N for the instrumental.
Hey, swapping N's and M's is classic late Egyptian. That was very authentic of you.
That's, and I'm still wondering if that's not actually what's being called for here. If it should be an M and it's just they swapped it in the other text, but the other text, which is the Doomed Prince, is actually I thought that it was pretty good in using
Um,
the M's and N's correctly. So I'm not too sure. I'm not going to pontificate on that one.
you haven't put an article in there. It's not en pademet.
Oh, that's a really good point. You're right.
So she will die by knife.
By
Or
knife. Yeah,
is it a general,
that is a really good point. You're right.
category?
Hmm. I like that. Because, yeah, for example, in this example here, which is, by the way, not using the emphatic tense, it's very parallel. It's a similar situation. It's the one I told you about before, where the seven Hathors say he will die by the crocodile, by the snake, or by the dog. In this one, it actually does use pa. Uh,
Uh,
Mutef en pa mesich, emrapu, or pahaf, the snake, emitet pa iu. Um, or or literally in the same manner by the dog. Well, it can only be one of the three, I'm guessing. Um, so yeah, the non-emphatic form would basically just use mutef, or in this case, the non-emphatic form would have been mutes. So let's try to do this without the emphatic form or without the second tense. It would just be mutes. Here we go. Mutis, and then presumably N, and damn it. It's interesting that it didn't use an article. That's a really interesting observation. I've noticed that the article is often missing when with something like generic, like when you would
yeah,
say
yeah.
a ring of gold. You wouldn't say a ring of the gold. So that's a pattern in late Egyptian. I wonder if that's what's going on here. But that would raise the question, why is there an article here? The crocodile, the dog, and the snake.
I mean, if it was referring to one particular crocodile,
Right.
it would make sense, wouldn't it?
It would. It would. I don't know. I don't know. By the crocodile, by a knife? No, I really can't make it up. I'm not sure.
Well, all those things are animals and these are objects.
That's true.
Well, that's one of those things that's quirky in English too, because we say die by the sword, but then we would
Yeah.
also say die by fire or die
By
Yeah.
the sword,
by
however.
car. So it's just whether it takes an article or not, that there's almost no rhyme or reason in English either.
You're right.
And if you say die by the sword, you don't actually mean one particular sword.
Correct. Correct. Very good point. Actually,
We
die by
say
the
die by firing squad. We don't say die by the firing squad. But why one and not the other?
good point. You die by execution, but you die by the sword, and it's essentially the same situation.
You
And
die by the electric chair or by lethal injection. Why
oh my
one
God.
have the and one not the other? You
Yeah,
know, I
you're
mean,
right.
I'm just
Perfect.
saying whether or not it takes an article, I don't know that we're going to get that far figuring out in Egyptian because I can't figure it out in English.
You're right. That's common. You wait.
Death by
Let's see.
guillotine, death by the guillotine.
Yeah, in some cases both could work, right? And
But then
you
that's not something that we say very often, is it?
Die by axe, die by the axe.
luckily not.
It's not funny at all. I'm
No,
sorry that
pretty
we're talking.
macabre.
It's a very serious matter. It is serious. It's serious where you are. Obviously, we don't have it where we are. So just another comment.
Don't remind me, but yeah.
Yeah, it's
I
got to
can
get
bring us back.
changed.
I can bring us back to the task at hand. I just want to clarify. After in these constructions with the iri, is the helper verb, whatever you call it, in the infinitive?
Yes.
So in this case, the iri set mood is infinitive, right?
This is an infinitive. Very good
Yeah.
very good point. I should have called it out. That's right. It's part of this whole big pattern in Late Egyptian where you take normal inflected verb forms, like for example mutes or mutes, and instead you put the whole inflection on the conjugation prefix, and then the verb just stays in the infinitive. It's the same thing that you see all over the place, and that becomes the norm in Coptic, where basically you don't inflect the verb at all anymore, with the exception of like a handful, literally a handful of basically a tiny number of verbs. Christopher, did that answer your question on how it's on basically emphatic versus non-emphatic, or second tense versus not second tense?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
At first, I was reading it. I was trying to see how would it sound. What would it look like? What would the morphology be in Middle Egyptian? So I was saying, okay, well, they're agreeing in gender here. So I was trying to think along the lines of a relative Sejameth form from Middle
Gotcha.
Egyptian.
Gotcha. It looks a bit like it, but it's a different animal. It's basically you're inflecting the verb iri. That's what you're doing. And you just yeah. No, I'll leave it at that. There's this whole discussion how this construction comes about. And what you'll find is an older theory, and Neveu also makes reference to that, is that this first part is being nominalized. And then you would read the whole thing basically, and that goes in line with what you just said, that she will die, this dying of hers, this dying in the future of hers, basically, it is by the knife. Or it is in the knife, essentially, or it is with the knife. So it becomes, you're making the whole thing into, well, is it, you nominalize the first part and then you make the whole thing into an adverbial sentence. So it's like as if it were broken up here in the middle. This dying of hers, it is by the knife. I I'm not a big fan of it because in my mind that just makes it way too complicated. But you will find it in a lot of grammar books, and that's why, especially in the context of Middle Egyptian, I think they often talk about emphatic forms being nominalized forms. If you see that, that's why. Second tense, while we're now on the topic of why do you call these things the way you call them, because in the beginning it was not clear when people were looking at Coptic grammar, why is there this whole second set of tenses? And that's why it's called the second tense. It's just we have another one and we don't know what to do with it. And then eventually it became clearer that these are always used when you're trying to emphasize the adverbial, just from like observation. I don't think there are Coptic grammars from like the 1300s, 1400s, written by then or written for Arabic speakers. I haven't read those because I have very beginners my Arabic is very beginner, so light years away from being able to read medieval semi-classical Arabic on Coptic grammar. I don't think they point out, or if they do, then it probably escaped European Coptologists' attention why or when you use these forms. But eventually was figured out, well, these are to emphasize the adverb, but by then the name, second tense, already stuck. So this is the first, this is the second, and that's really all it means. Very good. Let's do a few more. Here you'll need one word, which is sechen, mission, and another one, which is chet, which is timber. And with those, that sentence should be doable.
E-iriek, E,
Hmm?
her-ich,
That's right. Hang on. How do I like this? I think, yeah. Ich.
and sechen, sechenu,
I'll just go by sechen.
sechen. Okay, so that would be emphatically this what it's like you have come on why have you come on this mission, but with the emphasis on the mission.
Now,
On this mission.
this is good. Now, is it why or is it what if you read those?
Because of what?
Yeah, Herr Ich is normally because of what?
Ich, sort of,
Right.
because why? Yeah.
But put those two things together. Ich and sechen.
On what mission? Because of what mission
Correct.
have you come? Are you
Exactly.
coming? There we
That
go.
is picture perfect. Because of what mission have you come? Mission have you come? That's right. So the emphasized part is
And sechen.
actually.
Sir, her ich and sechen.
You
So
got it. That's right. So this is the second tense. What you're trying to emphasize is the other part of the sentence. Erik I, her ich het zeggen. Because of what mission have you come? Or for what mission because of what mission have you come? That's right. And answer?
iri I.
Yeah, apologies. Hang on. Iri
Talk
I.
about a lot of E's, Rebecca. Iri I.
Say that 10 times, yeah.
Emsa ta chetet.
Yeah, I think so. Let's stick with that. I think that's right.
So it is for timber that I have come.
Right. I've come after timber, literally. You. In the transcription keyboard, C becomes S, too funny, because of timber. Blah, 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 blah. I'm going to skip the rest because I'm running out of space. Yep, that's it. So in this case, it's basically Emsa Chet. So
it seems like
literally,
in the book, a lot of times they just do that. They reverse the sentence to emphasize it. They put the adverbial at the beginning. It is because of timber that I have come.
right, so-called cleft sentence. That's really the
exactly.
the best way. I mean, what else can you do?
Well, then another version I've heard saying that is my coming was because of the timber.
Right. Which again goes with this whole normalization idea where you try to. But the thing is, when I hear that, I'm thinking my coming, you would use an infinitive, pai, my coming. So that exists. You can do that. So, but you're right. I mean, syntactically, you're getting the same effect in English. How about the
It's like
next
the coming that I did was because of timber. Really, literally.
one? Something like that. Yeah, that's right. That's right. The coming that I did. Yeah.
So if you were like an alien coming from outer space, that's the kind of thing you'd say.
Right. Hopefully.
What strikes me as odd about the nomenclature of this is that it's called an emphatic tense, as if it's the verb that's being emphasized, but it's actually being de-emphasized.
Right. That's why I really don't like the emphatic. Also, emphatic, the first time when I read it, when I had no idea about Egyptian, the first time I read emphatic tenses, I thought, oh, this is going to give like some extra oomph to the sentence, like bang on the Khrushchev with his shoe on the table, like something like that. And that's not at all what it is. It's just focalizing on a different part of the sentence. So I've heard focalizing construction. Yeah, it's not ideal, honestly. The nomenclature is a little bit.
They should change the name to the Yoda form. That's
Yeah,
how Yoda would say it.
the Yoda form. I like it. And is that
Yeah,
why
from Star Wars.
is that why they use the pathetic Yoda? Okay, yep. I think that now I'll never forget that. The pathetic Yoda. All right, want to take the next one?
Yeah, I'll go.
All right.
Um, Iru or there we go.
I'll
Wait,
I'll stay with ri, but yeah, you're right. It
yeah,
says u technically.
Iru. Iri, Jedef. Oh, I missed the E. Iri,
That's right.
Jedef,
Mhm.
Ni, Sened, or Sened.
Right. It used to be Senedge, but by this point in time, it's Sened. Question: what is this thing?
Jedef. Hmm.
It's a common abbreviation for something.
Oh, two.
That's right.
Is
You
it
got
two
it.
here?
It's two.
Two. Or two.
It has to be two because iri, this form is followed by the infinitive. So if you want to say this really has to be, oh wait, no. Haha. Never mind. Forget what I said. We'll get there in a moment. What do you think it means?
With fear. In fear. It is. I'm trying to avoid using the it is. It is fear
Mhm.
that he
Mhm. Um,
made or did, or it is with fear. But he did it is with fear. He
let me help you a bit. How try to turn it into a regular sentence. Um, like if you were to make the second tense go away
Mhm.
and just made it into a normal, like for example, a past F. What would
he
that look
spoke
like? Mhm.
he spoke in fear, or he spoke.
Yep, you're pretty close. But who's speaking? Is it the F or is it the E?
Oh, so I
Correct.
so
You got
I
it.
spoke.
That's right.
I spoke it in, or I said it with in fear, or with in
Correct. You're spot on. The context is basically, I think it's again like a court thing. I said it because of fear, not because I actually saw it. I said it because I was afraid, basically. So I, I,
He was
I
made to sign a false confession.
pretty much. So that's I think that's what the context is. So let me put this into a normal. Oh, if you wanted to put it into, how would you say that with a normal ZMF? I said it because of fear, but without emphasizing the because of fear.
So Jedef,
Uh, Shed is good. And then make that a first person. I said.
We sure the context there is sure it's not I said it to fear.
To fear?
Yeah, so to scare someone.
No, that would be R. Good point. But whenever you want because I wanted him to be afraid. If you wanted to say to do something, like to scare somebody, you would say scare, whatever scare is them. I don't think snitch can be transitive, so you would have to make it into something more complicated in order for them to be afraid or something like that. You couldn't do it with M though. I'm pretty sure about that. Good question though. Uh, how would you say I said?
Jedef. Oh no,
I.
sorry, Jedi.
That's right. Jedi. And it.
Jedi
Right?
Su.
And then the rest is just copy and paste.
Yeah,
So,
Imsened or Imsened or Nisened.
incident. So this would be like the normal un unfocalizing version. I said it for fear. And the emphasis here might well be on I said it. Um, but in this case, it goes on to the for fear. And yeah, that's basically
What is the two doing?
any question? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, what is the two doing? Jed two. Is that because it's this infinitive spelling weird thing?
It's that infinitive spelling weird thing. You're right. Um, I was for a moment I was going to go into yeah, well, you have to use two because it's an infinitive, but that's the T ending is only there, of course, for weak verbs, and jet is not a weak verb. Jeez, tripping up German speakers here. But it does have a final DT sound, and I think they're just spelling out the that tuf at the end. That's Chatuf. So this is actually really only this, so to say, if that makes sense. Something like that. Or maybe even really like this. Iri Chatuf. It has to do with the phonology that probably, I would guess that Jed by itself at that point in time could already be something like Ja, Jo, and with the final T falling off. Maybe that's how it comes out in Coptic, right? We say Jo. For to speak, to say. And I think what they're trying to emphasize here is that that final consonant is spoken. That's why they have that toof in there. Oops. Ooh, that's cute. Maybe that's the best way how to put it. Like put it in parentheses. Something like this. Very good. All right, one more. And I think the rest we'll leave for that next time. Very well done.
Well, let's talk about the translation.
Oh, yeah. What did you have?
It is with fear. Yeah.
Yeah, it is with fear, or maybe for fear. It is. It
That
is
I
for.
spoke it. That I. Oh, what is Jed being used as confess? Confess.
It might, but I would just stay with say. It is for fear that I said it. I think it's probably best. It may be I have to look up the context again. I think it is a confession, but maybe I have it backward. I have it wrong. Um, but the context, one of the sentences before that is I didn't really see anything. That's what made me think it's probably from a confession because I mean that's what it sounds like. I didn't see anything. It was for fear that I said it. Cool. Should we try one more?
I'll try it.
Awesome.
Although it's a load of guessing. Iri, Iriuk,
Mhm.
Kemet.
Mhm.
I'm not sure what the j is doing. The
The
hand. That's a d,
hand.
isn't it?
Kent, yeah, is Kent spelled with a is it spelled with a D or with a T? I'm actually not sure. Maybe it is a D.
Maybe
It
it's
be,
not.
it becomes
Maybe it's not.
it becomes chond in Coptic to be angry. Uh,
Oh,
chond with a ch like
okay.
like
Yeah.
this thing. But what is it in earlier Egyptian? Bear with me. I should know this and I don't. Um, where did my here we go.
That determinative is very helpful. That little man hitting somebody. That will help me remember. So
Just
angry.
angry.
Somebody's angry.
Chin it? Yeah, it is with a D. That's what the D is doing there. To your question, I just had it wrong. So it should really be this.
Um, I
And the T is there to make it an infinitive, maybe?
Could be, or maybe because they pronounce it with a T at this point, or maybe there's a vowel. Chende? Maybe it's chende. Because the interesting thing is in Coptic, the final T is still there, chent. And normally it should fall off. So I'm thinking maybe there's like a protective vowel there. I don't
No,
know.
I think I've always seen it written DT. I don't think I've ever seen it without the T at the end.
Ah, okay. Interesting.
think.
I mean, Middle Egyptian, it should just be Q and D, I think. But nah, I don't know. Let's look it up later.
Well, sure. I think it's, I have a feeling
Always?
it's there. I don't know. I wouldn't bet my life on it, but I feel like I've always seen it written this way.
Gotcha.
And then her, ich.
That's right. Ich.
You were angry
Mhm.
upon now ich. I ought to know that. We have it all the time, but I can't remember what it is.
Ich is ash in Coptic. What?
Why were you angry?
That's right. Why were you angry? That's it. Mhm.
And the emphasis is on angry, is it?
It's not. It's on the adverbial. It's on the ich. So in other words, what is it that you are angry about? Would be the closest version how to let me do it in like poor English. It would be like you're angry for what?
Yes.
For what is it that you're angry? So the emphasis is on the adverbial.
Yeah. On the questioning bit.
Yeah, kind of, right? Like there's an implication. Well, depends on context, right? It could
How
really
about what made you angry?
Correct.
What made you angry?
Also possible. What is it that made you angry? Yeah, what made you angry? I think in the context, this is an is here. Why is you angry? Cute. Why are you angry? It's like those little cat memes. Like
Yeah.
can
It's
I
the outer
have
space people
cheese or
again.
something?
Yeah. Or if they came from outer space.
Say again, I'm sorry.
Why is you angry?
Why is you angry? Yeah, exactly. All right, very well done. I think let's break here for today. I think we can do a few more of those later, but I hope some of the mystery of the second tense has gone away. It's really just a focalizing thing, putting the emphasis on whatever you want to call the adverbial in the sentence. And normally it's formed with this complicated looking eerie thing, which, however, once you get used to it, it's actually a very nice marker. Second tense. Okay, I know what that is. Cool. Let's leave it for that and see you all next time.
Thank you so much. Sorry for being
Thank
so
you.
irrelevant.
Thank you.
Not at all.
Thank you.
Have a great
Have a
weekend.
good weekend,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Thank you. Bye.